Welcome back to Sydney's Eastern Creek International Raceway. Now coming your way, race 2 in round 3 of the Amscar series. There's the grid positions for you based on where they finished in the previous event. Rose, Dillman, Shembry, Kendrick, Bob Pearson starting out of posse number 5. Then Richard Mork, Don Pulver, Gary Wilmington, and the Tasmanian Scotty Taylor and Gary Cannon rounding out the 10-car field. This will be a 12-lap journey. As we walk down the grid, there is Don Pulver on screen, enjoying his racing. And Melrose, clearly the man they've got to try and catch here. They go racing now for this 12-lap journey. Bob Pearson got a good start from the 3rd row, but Melrose is going to charge through the first corner. A clear-cut race leader first time round. Let's see how it pans out. We've got Shembry up running 2nd. Bob Pearson has moved very smartly into 3rd spot.
Looks like and Bob's really having a go for 2nd here, and he may pull it off. Actually, he's down the inside. As we're in Don Pulver's car here, looking up the windscreen, and there's Gary Wilmington doing a bit of a wiggle and a waggle in front as they now go through the right-hander up over the hill. This is a nice crest as you come down into the right-hander. It's another right-hander after it. A little bit off camber. It's a fast corner, but a nice corner when you get it right. Bob
Pearson has secured 2nd on the circuit. He chases Melrose. Neil Shembry then comes 3rd, followed by Peter Dillman and Jeff Kendrick. G. Rose is having a really good time at Eastern Creek this afternoon, dominating the Amscar Series round 3. Be interesting to see here what Bob Pearson can do. He didn't have a fighting chance at all in the first event, having to start the race from pit lane. This time he's close enough if he's good enough, Colin.
He is, and I know that Mal will be thinking the same, and he'll be just trying to put his head down, try and keep a gap between himself and Pearson, because Bob has always been fast around here. He has a very good motor car as well. Both these cars are nearly identical. They both drive them very well, and I think this is going to be a great race.
It's certainly shaping up to be that way. There's Gary Wilmington in the green Falcon heading back down the main straight. The wily old veteran Gary Wilmington has been around for a long time, and as he'll tell you, he's still only 21. The 1 kilometre long stretch of bitumen that signifies the main straight of Eastern Creek Raceway. That's Dillman. He runs 4th on the circuit. There's some dust on the racetrack. Someone's certainly gone off or put a wheel on the grass.
Yeah, I think what's actually happened there, a lot of people cut that particular corner when you come down to the apex. It's a very fast corner, of course, and you don't want to get wide. If you get wide and you get caught out in the loose rubble, you can obviously go off. It is a tendency to cut the corner. I think maybe I don't think it was Mal. It was probably more like Pearson, actually, that cut that particular corner, causing the dust for the competitors come behind him, of course.
Great battle developing for 3rd and 4th between Shembry and Dillman. Look how close they are now as Dillman pokes the front of his car right under the spoiler of Neil Shembry, and now ducking up the inside, Dillman. Really good race here for 3rd and 4th on the circuit. Melrose leads. In 2nd is Bob Pearson, who's inching just a little bit closer. Then Shembry and Dillman.
It is, and actually the Western Australians aren't out of this either, actually. I'm just noticing there in the background that Kendricks is still hanging on, which is great because he hasn't done a lot of laps around this particular track, and it's good to see the guys coming all the way from Perth, obviously, and actually still having a go here.
As a racing driver, Colin, is Eastern Creek the sort of layout you can really enjoy?
Well, it is. It's a long corners, and the cars are a bit inclined to understeer around here. And that's what most people find. I come to actually Eastern Creek, have understeer in the car they may never have any other circuit. It's because of the smooth surface, I think, and the corners are long, continuous corners.
Racetrack that's got a little bit of everything. There goes Shembry blasting down the main straight, and Dillman right behind him. The battle for 3rd and 4th. Again, they drop the left rear wheel on the dirt as they swoop through the left-hander. Pearson now back into action this weekend. He went missing in action at round 2. Because he had a nasty shunt in practice leading up to the 2nd round of this championship, and the Pro Duck Commodore sustaining a fair bit of damage, but good to see them back in action.
It is actually, I noticed on the back of Bob's car too, that he's actually co-driver is going to be at Bathurst. Our Falcon driver has been doing very well, McCarthy. And McCarthy, I was speaking to him in the pits too, and he said that he was ashamed he couldn't make it, of course, because the car just wasn't ready to get here this weekend. But actually, Bob and McCarthy in that particular car at Bathurst, you know, will be a very good combination.
They certainly will be. No change in the order. It's still Melrose and the Victor Footwear entry. That's him. Also sponsored by Fairfax Community Classifieds. Bob Pearson, as they now head towards the top part of the racetrack. Turns 11 and 12 back onto the main straight. There's Pearson now. Hasn't been able to make up a lot of ground, but then at the same time, Rose has not been able to get away from him.
No, I think that's the go. That Mal, and obviously before we said the two cars are very close in performance, and the drivers are driving them very well. I'm just a bit surprised to see Dillman back so far in this race when he was so close actually to Mal in the first race. But I guess it's the old story, you know, if you don't get a very good start and you're back behind somebody, it's one thing catching them, it's another thing passing them.
About 5 laps to go in this event. You're watching highlights of race 2 in round 3 of the ARDC promoted Amscar series for 1997. And the top 4 drivers setting a cracking pace. It's Mal Rose in second spot, Bob Pearson, then Neil Shembry and Peter Dillman. That battle continues. We'll take a break from Sydney's Eastern Creek Raceway. Stay with us, won't you? Nice to have your company, and welcome back to Eastern Creek International Raceway in Sydney for the highlights of race 2 in round 3 of the Amscar series. No change in the order. Mal Rose continues to lead this one in dominating fashion. That's him. Bob Pearson now starts to move just a touch closer, and that's the scrap for 3rd and 4th on the racetrack between Neil Shembry and also Peter Dillman in car number 36. So I've got Colin Bond beside me, and this has been a battle of intensity right from the word go in this race.
Well, it has actually, but I must say that Shembry's been doing a great job. He's 3rd in the first race. I think it's his best result in the series so far, and he'll be 3rd again now. You know, he'll be looking for a great result today if he can maintain that, of course. You know, I know that he has been getting a lot of pressure for the whole race though from Dillman, and there's still 4 laps to go, so anything can obviously happen.
Quite interesting in qualifying for this race meeting. Mal Rose and Bob Pearson and Peter Dillman all qualifying in the low to mid 136s, and then Neil Shembry qualifying with a 137.4. So he's actually found some speed as the day has progressed, and I know he's got some new suspension components in the car as Dillman has a look up on the inside. So it's been a real case of the harder you try, the luckier you get.
Well, it is, I think. They've all been improving their cars over the series, and it's showing they're getting faster from race to race, and the cars are looking good too. You know, they're all handling well. They now know how to set the cars up for the tyres that they're using. They're changing the suspension and so on, and they're all getting faster, and I think it's fantastic to see.
Bob Pearson now on screen in the product entry was particularly quick at the opening round of this series at this very racetrack, but he had a couple of offs that day that were very unfortunate. He would have been angry about it, then missed round 2 as I've already mentioned in the program. So he's got a bit to prove to himself and his fans today as he now locks up on turn 9. An easy thing to do there.
Well, he is, I think, and he's gone very wide actually as well. He missed the apex, locked the brake. You know, you sort of go straight ahead momentarily, and then by the time you get back on the circuit, you find that Mal's probably gone.
Shembry still has Peter Dillman filling his mirrors. Been a really good battle, that one. Bob Pearson runs second. No change there as he chases Mal Rose, the fast left-hander at the end of the Eastern Creek Main Straight. All the drivers will tell you that's one of the most exhilarating corners in Australian motor. Bob Pearson product entry.
Yeah, this is the left-hander. Oh, that was the left-hander.
Well, it was just as I was saying a couple of moments ago. He had a couple of offs in round 1, and he's done it again. Bad luck for Bob.
It was actually, because, you know, he's just gone down there, braked a little bit late, turned, and the car's actually started to spin. You can't do anything about it at that stage. Just let the thing spin, pick up the first gear and get back on the track. I think he's still in second spot though, because he did have a bit of a gap to these two. Oh no.
Another off. This time it's Neil Shembry. Well, when you see battles of that magnitude for that long, often a mistake like that comes. And Shembry and Peter Dillman have been scrapping for the entire race. Dillman just poked him in the right rear mudguard, quarter panel, and around he went.
Yeah, it's one of those, it's a slow corner and you've come into it, and obviously that Dillman has tapped the back of him to make him spin. A bit of a shame because, as I said before, he was coming third in the first race. He would have liked to have gone 3rd today too, I think, but now he's dropped back a few places and it's moved Dillman up, of course. It's not a nice way to actually increase him.
Now looking at Gary Wilmington and Don Pulver. They run down the 1 kilometre long Eastern Creek Main Straight. Last lap for Mal Rose, which means he's about a dozen corners away from home. And what will amount to being 5 straight race wins in this series, having won 3 on the trot at Amaroo Park Raceway, and the first 2 here today at Eastern Creek.
Well, I think Mal's taking it easy, as we can see now, because he looked in their vision there and found that Pearson's gone, and we know why he went. It was on the left-hander at the end of the straight when he's had a bit of a spin. So there's nobody behind him. He's just making sure he's going to make it now to the finish and obviously win his next race.
And win it very comfortably too, Colin Bond. Here he comes. He's crest the top of the hill, and Mal Rose is really cruising down the main straight now. He'll take the checkered flag in what amounts to being his 5th consecutive race win in this series. What a performance by Sydney's Mal Rose. You can see how big the gap is back to our second place driver, Bob Pearson. Third of the checkered, Peter Dillman, as we go to the pits and Joe Gardner.
Neil, you're doing really well in race 2. What happened?
I was going extremely well. I was really pleased from the start, but Peter had a bit of a shunt there on the hairpin there and put me out and lost 2 places, so held that position till the end. So.
The car's doing extremely well. The times are fantastic. Are you happy?
Yeah, I'm extremely happy with the car, Joanne. We put new brakes and new suspension on the car for this meeting, and we did that for this meeting and the Amscar final at Bathurst and obviously the Promise 1000, so no, we're happy with the car.
And we're now joining Mal Rose. This is becoming a real habit, Mal.
Yeah, thanks, Joanne. Yeah, another win for the Fairfax Classifieds Commodore. You know, that's another 2 out of 2. That's 5 in a row. We're pretty happy with the whole thing.
Bob Pearson seemed to be gaining some ground there in the last couple of laps on you.
Yeah, I think Bob was trying terribly hard to catch my car, and I put my head down and focused, and we stayed ahead of him. And then something happened to him, and about lap 10 we lost contact, so I don't know where he went to.
Hope you've enjoyed the highlights of races 1 and 2 in round 3. Make sure you join us again next week.